Congressman, welcome to the program. Glad to finally have you.
Benny, thanks for having me on. It's an honor to be here. I have to say, you do incredible work, so I'm really thrilled to join.
You know, incredible work. So there's good work and then there's bad work. The judiciary is doing very bad work right now, and you are leading the charge to impeach these judges. And I know we're talking a lot about the Kennedy files on the show, but I want to get to that because I know our time is short. Do you believe that these Congress has the right to defund federal judges? You don't have to go through an impeachment. You don't have to get 67 senators. Would be tough, bro, to get an impeachment of a judge. That's tough no matter what. But you could defund entire districts of these judges, or you could do away with the districts. It's entirely in the purview of Congress. What is the strategy right now to stop these extrajudicial encroachments on Article 2 powers for President Trump?
Yeah, the strategy I support is kind of an all of the above approach. We have, as you've talked about a lot, and as the American people can see very clearly, several rogue district court judges, primarily out of D.C., which are taking it upon themselves to act virtually as commander-in-chief and usurp the president's constitutional authority. This is plenary Article 2 authority that the president is using to protect our country from invasions and to run our foreign policy, something the courts have no jurisdiction over. And it's also codified in the Alien Enemies Act that he does have the right to deport these illegal alien terrorists that are on our territory because Joe Biden brought them into the country. But this is the president's power that's being usurped from the courts. There are several ways to go about this, and one of them is impeachment. I, of course, issued or put forward some impeachment articles earlier this week. I think that is a route we should pursue aggressively. But to your point, there are other ways. There are defunding certain judges or the courts. There's also ways that we can restructure the courts, and we can say maybe we can statutorily limit the jurisdiction of D.C. circuit courts who are taking it upon themselves to act as president of the United States. I support all of the above, and I think we need to move aggressively. And I think that's the most important thing here, because the American people are not going to sit around and wait and burn valuable time in the Trump presidency litigating these cases for months. We've got to move fast.
Very interesting that you bring up that strategy, because it's clearly what's going on here. The strategy is bog down every order as long as you can in court. It can take years to get before the Supreme Court. You're not even sure what's going to happen there. There's been some troubling rulings out of the Supreme Court as of late. But nonetheless, that's the goal. And so if you can get these injunctions, you can just stop the Trump and everything that the American public voted for. You can just stop it. You can enjoin it, and you can bog it down, and you can just cancel the Trump presidency. Is this the new strategy?
Yes, what you said there is so insightful, because that's exactly what they're doing. If you think back to the first Trump presidency, you saw so many, every court was trying to litigate every little action the president was doing, and it did bog him down. He had to use his time and his team's time and their resources to litigate powers that he already had to begin with. You saw a similar form of lawfare under the Biden administration whenever they would target, and this is a little different, but they would target concerned parents or Catholics who celebrate the Latin Mass, or they would go after their political enemies. And the goal there was to drag people through a disgusting, time-consuming, expensive process. The process itself is the punishment. And in this case here, and you see this across several judges, what they want to do is tie up the president's resources and time and his team's time litigating powers that he has already right now. And the goal is to stop him from executing on the mandate that voters gave him. They know, I think that this judge knows very well that he may lose this case if it goes to appeal. If it goes to the Supreme Court, he may lose. But to a certain degree, tying the president up for months in litigation is a win for the left. And that's a problem. And that's why I think we've got to be aggressive in going after these courts. Now, what I would love to see is the Supreme Court take up this case in an expedited manner. so that they can overturn this ruling quickly, then maybe Congress wouldn't, we wouldn't have to go to impeachment for some of this. I think we probably should anyways, but it wouldn't be as we wouldn't need to do it on such an expedited manner. But it doesn't look like that's happening right now. I hope that that changes. But the point is, we've got to move, whether it's the Supreme Court or Congress, we've got to move fast, because this delaying tactic is the purpose here.
I don't understand how you can have an executive branch in this style of system. So with every single breath that Donald Trump takes, if a judge unelected can, from a lower, inferior court, can enjoin it, then you don't have a presidency. You certainly don't have any powers of the presidency, because there is no limiting principle here, Congressman. At what point does the president, who's trying to order troop movements or an aircraft carrier or fly an Air Force One, where's the limiting principle? So a judge can pretty much enjoin Air Force One movements and say you're not allowed to go there. You have to report to me if you want to use Air Force One. That's what's happening here.
Yes, that's exactly right. And think through what happened here. The president and Marco Rubio were conducting bilateral diplomacy with El Salvador, something that this court knew nothing about. This was something that was done. Some of this was classified and done in secret, which is as it should have been. Bilateral diplomacy. And they can, this is a massive sort of operation here. You've got to get all of these terrorists. You've got to get law enforcement involved. You've got to operate these planes to send them to El Salvador. The judge knew none of that. He didn't know anything that was going on. He didn't know whether we had the capacity to take these people back. Once he ordered the planes midair to come back into the United States, he didn't know anything about the flight crew that was on there, how much rest they had, how much fuel was on those planes. He knew nothing about the logistics, and he shouldn't have. That wasn't his job. That was the job of the president. But that job is being usurped by district courts. And you're right, this is a fundamental attack on our constitutional republic and on the separation of powers. These are plenary powers, non-justiciable plenary powers of the president under Article 2 of the Constitution to conduct our foreign policy and to keep the American people safe from invasion and to repel alien enemies, a policy that is not only in the Constitution, but codified in the Alien Enemies Act that President Trump was invoking. This has nothing to do with a district court. But more broadly, to your point, if we see this across the presidency, right? You've got a unelected rogue bureaucracy right now that is ignoring the president's orders. And then you have a judiciary that is backing them up every step of the way. And it renders our elections virtually useless if we allow this to continue. The people elected President Trump with a mandate to do certain things. That includes eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse with DOJ, which I've taken a big role in. I'm a part of the DOJ subcommittee. But that also includes securing and deporting violent illegal alien terrorists. And if the bureaucracy and the judiciary, both of which are unelected, lead him every step of the way, what is the purpose of our elections? That is wrong. That is a fundamental attack on our constitutional republic.
So I want to make a through line here to what you just said, because it's a great point. You have a rogue bureaucracy that does not report to the president, that certainly doesn't report to the constitutional republic, and that is backed up by the courts, and then you don't have a presidency at all. Now, we are on the heels of of a large tranche of the CIA's JFK assassination documents being released by the National Archives, CIA, FBI, and executive branch documents. What that mosaic is showing is that there was a rogue bureaucracy that at the very least allowed the conditions for an assassination of the president of the United States. There are some real shocking revelations of how the CIA operates, and these are operations from 60 years ago, so who knows where they are now. But I wanted to get your takeaways on these files and on reining in the CIA, because, of course, we've seen these actions as of late. We've seen the president get shot. We've seen there be criminal lack of protection around the president of the United States, around Donald Trump. We've seen control of the media, control of censorship, and control of what Americans can say online. And then, of course, we've seen just flagrant lies for the bureaucracy, like with the COVID virus. with Dr. Fauci heading to the CIA in order to manhandle their scientists into lying. And so all of it seems like just an absolute rat's nest. And boy, it'd be nice to clean it out.
It would. And I think whenever I look at what President Trump is doing, we've had presidents in the past promise to declassify information. President Trump is actually delivering here. There are 80,000 documents that he is declassifying. They're already declassified. They're in the process of digitizing those documents. Last I saw, about 30,000 or just over 30,000 of them had been digitized. They're still working through that. They're working through a few more redactions that they have to go through a court process. But this is a huge win for transparency. This is a president that is delivering on his promises to tell the American people things that they should know about what their government is doing, particularly things that happened 60 years ago. But to your point, you talked about the establishment, and I think that we can see a lot of what the deep state rogue agencies have done over the past decade or two. But this is a really good reminder that the establishment has been in power for a long time. In fact, the term the establishment originally referred to the foreign policy establishment in the wake of World War II and during the early years of the Cold War that basically took it upon themselves to conduct foreign policy apart from the elected officials. In fact, the establishment was very well known for looking down on members of Congress and other elected officials and seeing them as sort of the populist wing of the government who didn't know what's going on. They didn't understand foreign policy, but the experts in the establishment did. And this is another wing of that. It's another wing of an unelected rogue bureaucracy that has usurped power that the Constitution does not give them. And the American people deserve to know what happened in the 1960s with the assassination of JFK and MLK. We deserve answers, and we're finally at least getting more information. It's a huge win for transparency. I think it's going to take quite a bit of time to dig through all of these documents and try to piece the puzzle together to understand. But this is like I said, this is a big win for us.
Yeah, you're a young man. I think a relatively young man. Our JFK assassination was Donald Trump's attempted assassination. Multiples. I think there are many that we don't even know about that happened to the president. And so that's what we will endeavor to do, to uncover that. We're thankful that Congress is taking this kind of stuff seriously. We're thankful for members of Congress that have the balls to actually say, no, we should impeach these rogue judges. I mean, that is, damn it, your job, right? Like, your job is to uphold these powers and to delineate in the egregious encroachment on these powers. And so we're thankful for that. Just in closing here, will the judge be impeached? What do you think? Do you think that you could get it through the House? If you could get it through the House, Congressman, the impeachment of Judge Boasberg, then that would at least send a message, even if it's dead on arrival in the Senate.
Yes, that's exactly right. And let me back up a little bit. Impeachment is a core part of the separation of powers and the checks and balances in our federal government. The Constitution gives Congress the power to impeach these judges.
We apologize, ladies and gentlemen. We have a freeze here. Okay. Hey, there you go, Congressman. I think we're back. Can I get a sound test? There we go. Okay. All right.
Technical error there. I
yeah. Do a show. It always happens like this. Do a show on the CIA and their secrets, and everything gets ching, ching, ding, 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 ding. Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. Here we go.
Everything we say is between you, me, the listeners, and the FBI and the CIA who are dialing in here,
and our wives. Yeah.
Exactly.
Please just a continuation of that thought, and then I know we can close.
And this is a core part of our checks and balances. This is a power that the Constitution gives Congress to keep the judiciary in check and make sure. Remember, we all swear an oath to uphold the Constitution. That's not something that is exclusive to the judiciary. I took that oath. The president took that oath as well. And we've got to, the only way checks and balances work, another way to put it, is if there's a little bit of tension in between the different branches. And I think that impeaching this judge for a broad, radical overreach of his authority, which by the way, is causing a constitutional crisis. This impeachment is not causing a constitutional crisis. Judge Boasberg is causing a constitutional crisis. That is a way to bring the rein in an overreaching judiciary that is being politicized and would send a very strong message.
Yeah, I would love to see it. They'll stop doing it. They'll stop doing it. You lock up one person for 25 years on terrorism charges for swatting, and our next guest is going to be a creator who's just swatted, a conservative creator who's just swatted, and journalist. That sends a message. It stops the swatting, right? You do that for one person, and you put this effect. If you do this for one judge, you'll have an effect on the rest of the judiciary, and I think that's really powerful. Thank you, Congressman, for actually fighting for this. We know it's not necessarily popular in Congress, but it's right, and we're thankful for that. Congressman Brandon Gill, ladies and gentlemen, with almost 100. Look at this. Ladies and gentlemen, we got hundreds of thousands of people watching. Go in and follow him and make sure that we get him to 100K today. Let's go. 96K, 97K. We're going to round up. We're going to 100K today on the Congressman's account. Godspeed, Congressman.
Thank you, Benny. Appreciate it.